Prabhupada and the Krishna consciousness movement. Prabhupada had said something in the newsletter about book distribution, and it just touched me. We were so absorbed in books, that whenever Prabhupada would say anything about book distribution, we would go nuts. That meant it was our connection to Prabhupada. We weren't big guns who could sit at a meeting with Prabhupada or get personal attention so much. Maybe during some morning walks at the Mayapur festival, we got to sneak in with the sannyasis. But otherwise, our book distribution was our connection with Prabhupada. When he would mention something about book distribution, it would be our life and soul. Lavanga Latika Devidasi. Having heard Srila Prabhupada speak and knowing that he was always reading from these books, the Srimad Bhagavatam, and that he was preaching that you have to distribute this knowledge to others, made it all very simple. That is, you just knew that this was Srila Prabhupada's desire. He was always telling us he was giving us this knowledge, and that once you have this knowledge, you have to distribute it to others. Srila Prabhupada came to America to preach with his disciples, so we must do it because it's Prabhupada's desire. He spent so much time translating these books to be distributed. You just want to distribute to others, and you want people to have these books in their homes. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Srila Prabhupada's Transcendental Book Distribution ki jai. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So, just for something a little different, because it's Govardhan Puja today, we're going to read one of the verses from the Nectar of Instruction, Upadeshamrita. This is text number 9. We won't ask everyone to repeat it. I'm going to be lucky if I manage to chant it. So this is Nectar Instruction, text number 9. You got it there. Aikuntas janito vara marupuri tatra pira sotsavad vrindaranya mudara pani ramanat tatra Govardhana Radha kundam iha pigokulapate premamrita plavanat kuryadasya virajato giritate sevam viveki naka. Translation. The holy place known as Mathura is spiritually superior to Vaikuntha, the transcendental world, because the Lord appeared there. Superior to Mathurapuri is the transcendental forest of Vrindavan because of Krishna's Rasalila pastimes. And superior to the forest of Vrindavan is Govardhan hill, for it was raised by the divine hand of Sri Krishna and was the site of his various loving pastimes. And above all, the super excellent Sri Radha Kund stands supreme, for it is overflooded with the ambrosial nectarian prema of the Lord of Gokul, Sri Krishna. Where then is that intelligent person who is unwilling to serve this divine Radha Kund, which is situated at the foot of Govardhan hill? Purport by His Divine Grace, Srila Prabhupada. The spiritual world is 3/4 of the total creation of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and it is the most exalted region. The spiritual world is naturally superior to the material world. However, Mathura and the adjoining areas, although appearing in the material world, are considered superior to the spiritual world, because the Supreme Personality of Godhead himself appeared at Mathura. The interior forests of Vrindavan are considered superior to Mathura because of the presence of the 12 forests, Dwadashavan, such as Talavan, Madhuvan, and Bahulavan, which are famous for the various pastimes of the Lord. But superior to these forests is the divine Govardhan hill, because Krishna lifted it like an umbrella, raising it with his beautiful lotus-like hand to protect his associates, the denizens of Vraj, from the torrential rains sent by angry Indra, king of the demigods. It is also at Govardhan hill that Krishna tended the cows with his cowherd friends, and there also he had his rendezvous with his most beloved Sri Radha and engaged in loving pastimes with her. Radha Kund at the foot of Govardhan is superior to all because it is there that love of Krishna overflows. Advanced devotees prefer to reside at Radha Kund because this place is the site of many memories of the eternal loving affairs between Krishna and Radharani, Rati Vilas. In the Caitanya Charitamrita Madhya Lila chapter 18, it is stated that when Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu first visited the area of Vrajabhumi, he could not at first find the location of Radha Kund. This means that Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was actually searching for the exact location of Radha Kund. Finally, he found the holy spot and there was a small pond there. He took his bath in that small pond and told his devotees that the actual Radha Kund was situated there. Later, the pond was excavated by Lord Chaitanya's devotees, headed first by the six Goswamis such as Rupa and Raghunath Das. Presently, there is a large lake known as Radha Kund there. Srila Rupa Goswami has given much stress to Radha Kund because of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's desire to find it. Who then would not give up Radha Kund and try to reside elsewhere? No person with transcendental intelligence would do so. The importance of Radha Kund, however, cannot be realized by other Vaishnava Sampradayas, nor can persons uninterested in the devotional service of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu understand the spiritual importance and divine nature of Radha Kund. Thus, Radha Kund is mainly worshipped by the Gaudiya Vaishnavas, the followers of Lord Sri Krishna Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Om Jnana Timirandasya Gananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manobishtam Stapatam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Sri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunatam Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parajana Sahitam Shri Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakam Vitamscha Nama Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimati Bhaktivedanta Swamaniti Namane Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pacharane Nirvishesha Sunyavadi Pasticha Deshatarane Vanchakalpaturubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadha Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhaktavrinda Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Excuse me. So today we're celebrating this really, really important day, Sri Govardhan Puja. And it's a really, I was listening last night to class about Govardhan Puja by my Guru Maharaj, Srila Shivaram Swami Maharaj. And he made, I mean, he always makes so many nice points, but he particularly was emphasizing that, there's so many festivals in the Vaishnav calendar, there's so many appearance days and special events that we celebrate throughout the year. And if we study into those events, then we'll find that there are different benefits and benedictions for celebrating those events. So we'll find that by celebrating Janmashtami, by fasting on Janmashtami, we'll get such and such a benefit. And, the same for Gaurapanim, same for Radhastami, same, all the different appearance days and festival days that we celebrate throughout the year. Then there are benefits and benedictions that the acharyas and the shastras give for celebrating those particular days. But Govardhan Puja is very, very unique because it's the only day, at least, welcome to be corrected, but it's the only day that I know of where there's actually a punishment for not celebrating it. Krishna actually says, and what is the punishment? It's punishable by death if you don't celebrate Govardhan Puja. You don't hear that about Janmashtami or Gaurapanim or any of these other days. But Krishna says, if you don't worship Govardhan Hill, if you don't celebrate Govardhan Puja, the result is you'll be bitten by the snakes on Govardhan Hill and you'll die. So it's quite heavy. And, that we can interpret that in different ways. What does it mean to, maybe it means spiritual death. We lose our enthusiasm. There are different ways that we can interpret what Krishna may or may not mean by that. But he obviously he considers this particular festival to be very, very important, and so much so that he gives the whole program for the festival. He gives the whole program. Not only he gives the program, he gives the menu for the festival. I mean, I was thinking it would be nice at some point in the future to it's like a humble proposal, but maybe at some point in the future, as part of the Govardhan thing, just exactly step by step, what does Krishna say? Do this, do this, do this, do this. This is the menu. These are exactly the sweets. These are the subjis. These are the, he gives every single detail of the whole festival. So at least in Krishna's mind, it would appear that it's very, very important to celebrate this festival, so much so that, he particularly gives all, for the other festivals, Rupa Goswami has given a whole explanation of how we should study, how we should celebrate Janmastami, and then different acharyas have given directions for how we can celebrate Gaurapanim and Radhastami. But this is the one where the Supreme Personality of Godhead himself, he says, this particular festival, this is how I want you to celebrate it. So it's very, very, very important festival. So there's a verse in the Brahma Samhita. I'm sure that Javat-Vasi Prabhu is a lot better at me than reciting this verse. But Galoka Namni Nijadamni Tate Chatasya Devi Mahesha Haridama Suteshu Teshu Tete Prabhava Nichaya Vihitas Chayena Govindamadi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami. Lowest of all is located Devi Dham, the mundane world. Next above it is Mahesh Dham, the abode of Mahesh, Lord Shiva. Above Mahesh Dham is placed Haridham, the abode of Hari, and above them all is located Krishna's own realm named Goloka. I adore the primeval Lord Govinda, who has allotted their respective authorities to the rulers of these graded realms. It took me quite a long time to for the penny to drop, because I was always trying to figure out, why is it, Rupa Goswami says the holy place known as Mathura is spiritually superior to Vaikuntha, the transcendental world, because the Lord appeared there. So for a long time I was thinking, well, the Lord's already appeared in Vaikuntha. Why is it more significant that he's appeared in Mathura? Why does that make Mathura more superior to Vaikuntha? But who is it that has appeared in Mathura? It's Krishna that's appeared in Mathura. So regardless of whether Mathura is in the material world, Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So Lord Brahma, he's saying here that above Haridham, superior to Haridham, is Goloka. And it is Krishna of Goloka who has descended to Mathura and then entered into Vrindavan. So, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, it's described in the Brahma Samhita. It's described in the Caitanya Charitamrita. Srila Prabhupada explains that Krishna, the original Krishna, the original Supreme Personality of Godhead, Swayam Bhagavan, he appears once in the day of Lord Brahma. So in every kalpa, in every set of 4 ages, Satya, Treta, Dwapara, and Kali Yuga, the Lord appears. And a particular form of Krishna appears every Dwapara Yuga. But it is not usually the original Krishna of Vrindavan who appears. It is usually like Vasudeva Krishna, who appears, in every Dwapara Yuga, and then followed by Kali Yuga. Similarly, Lord Chaitanya doesn't appear every age in Kali Yuga. Generally, it's a feature of Gaura Narayan, who appears, or a Shakti Vaishavatar, who appears in Kali Yuga to establish the Yuga Dharma of Harinam Sankirtan. Harinam Sankirtan is always the Yuga Dharma, but it's not always Lord Chaitanya himself, this original form, combined form of Radha and Krishna, who appears in Kali Yuga. He appears following on from Krishna, and that is once in the day of Lord Brahma. So it's a very, 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 very rare occasion when Krishna appears, when the original Krishna appears. And when he does appear, he descends to the material world, and he brings with him the spiritual world. Krishna brings the spiritual world to the material world. He brings all the resonance of the spiritual world, and he brings the places in the spiritual world. So that Vrindavan, which has appeared in the material world, this, Krishna brought the original spiritual world with him, like sometimes described as a replica, but with all the potencies of the spiritual world. So Giriraj Govardhan is an eternal resident of the spiritual world, and he has come to the material world. And when Krishna leaves and goes back to the spiritual world, and all the residents of the spiritual world go back to the spiritual world with Krishna, then 3 things are left behind in Vrindavan. Who can say what those 3 things are? Anyone? Javat Prabhu? Yeah, Govardhan Hill, Yamuna River, and the dust of Vrindavan. So these are these three things remain in the material world. And these 3 things have all the potency of those same things in the spiritual world. So, it's a very, to be able to enter into Vrindavan, and even I was kind of contemplating when we were making these notes, we have Giriraj here. This is a piece of the spiritual world that's right here. A piece of Vrindavan, a piece of Goloka is right here, blessing us every day. I mean, we can't have I don't have the realization to be able to really appreciate that. But obviously, there's a lot of significance there, and there's a lot of power and potency in Giriraj being personally present anywhere. So Govardhan Puja is not just, the day of Govardhan Puja. It's a meditation on the particular pastime of Krishna's lifting Govardhan Hill and the worship of Govardhan Hill. But even more than that, or in addition to that, it's also a glorification and a meditation on Vrindavan. And it's a reminder that this is the supreme goal of our practice of bhakti. Lord Chaitanya, it's described that Lord Chaitanya's kind of mission and his unique gift to the world isn't just the chanting of the Hare Krishna mantra, but it is the opportunity to enter into this very high realm of spontaneous devotional service in the mood of the residents of Vrindavan. That is ultimately what Lord Chaitanya is giving. And this is also the goal of the Srimad Bhagavatam. The reason that the Srimad Bhagavatam exists is the 10th canto of the Srimad Bhagavatam to describe Krishna's pastimes. And so all the other 9 cantos of the Bhagavatam, they exist to qualify us, to qualify our consciousness and to prepare our consciousness so that we're actually ready to enter into those pastimes of the 10th canto of Krishna's pastimes in Vrindavan. And Lord Chaitanya also came for the same reason. So Lord Chaitanya, or a form of the Lord, appears in every single Kali Yuga to give the chanting of the holy names. And he empowers those chanting of the holy names with the potency to allow us entrance into the spiritual world. But when Lord Chaitanya comes once in the day of Lord Brahma, he empowers the chanting of the Hare Krishna mantra with the mood and the pure love of Vrindavan. This is what he has come to experience. He came to experience the mood of love of Radharani and the residents of Vrindavan, and then to give that to others, to give others the opportunity of also, not that we can experience the love of Radharani, but that he gave us the opportunity to enter into Vrindavan Dham and to experience the love of the residents of Vrindavan Dham and to actually enter into that realm. So this is particularly what the Hare Krishna mantra is empowered with. And this is the goal of Lord Chaitanya. This is the goal of the Srimad Bhagavatam, to reveal Vrindavan, to reveal Krishna's most confidential, most intimate pastimes in Vrindavan Dham. So the pastime of Govardhan Hill, it's really like a celebration of Vrindavan, and it's a celebration of the residents of Vrindavan. It's a celebration and a glorification of the very, very unique and supreme surrender of the residents of Vrindavan. Whatever Krishna asks them to do, they do it. Krishna said, stop the Indra Yoga and do this. And they did it. And what happened? nothing good. Indra came, sent torrential rain, tried to kill the cows, tried to kill the residents of Vrindavan. He infuriated Indra. Now, if one of us here was to say, okay, Prabhupada, I've got a really good idea, and it sounds like a completely outlandish idea, but just do it. And then you say, okay, go on then, whatever, and you do it, and it ends up a complete disaster. We end up infuriating, the neighbors, and then I come later on that day, I said, I've got another really good idea. You're going to say, forget it. I'm not listening to your ideas ever again, So after asking them to give up the Indra Yogya, and to worship Govardhan Hill, the result was that they made Indra completely furious. So then Krishna lifts up Govardhan Hill and says, okay, everyone come under here. They don't think, no, I'm not falling for this one again. We already tried following this guy earlier on and look what happened. No, just immediately, whatever Krishna says, we'll do it. And that required a lot more surrender because, stopping the Indra Yogya, that, we're going to get pretty wet. Walking under there, we could well end up, a whole bunch of pancakes. But still, they just follow Krishna right under Govardhan Hill. So the residents of Vrindavan, they have this complete surrender and faith in Krishna without even knowing who Krishna is. They're not even conscious most of the time of Krishna's godhood. He's the most beautiful person. He's the most adorable person. He's the most lovable person, but they're not meditating on him as being the supreme personality of Godhead. Occasionally, it'll kind of come to mind that, well, okay, who is this person? And they'll start thinking of Krishna as being more than just this beautiful little boy. And then the pastime potency just covers them so that Krishna can continue enjoying the pastimes. So, these residents, they have this unique surrender to Krishna and this unique faith in Krishna, the highest surrender, the highest faith in Krishna. The basis of the surrender is their complete faith in Krishna. So, that this pastime, it's not just a glorification and a meditation on Krishna's lifting of Govardhan Hill, but it's a glorification and a meditation on the whole mood of surrender and faith of the residents of Vrindavan. And that this is actually our goal also. So this is the goal of the Sankirtan movement. Lord Chaitanya, and we even see that in Lord Chaitanya's pastimes. Lord Chaitanya would ask the devotees, okay, let's go out, let's take, and it was a very dangerous situation. That it was a Muslim-controlled environment, and to go out with mridungas and cartels and chant the holy name and distribute Krishna consciousness for anyone and everyone to hear and take part in, and to encourage hundreds and thousands of people. And that is, it's like, could you imagine if we were to go to, some devotees tried it, devotees went to like Pakistan and places like this to spread the Sankirtan movement. It's a very, very dangerous environment to spread the Sankirtan movement. But they followed Lord Chaitanya. They just followed him right out into the streets and were willing to accept whatever the consequence was for the place of serving Lord Chaitanya. So Lord Chaitanya, he's also, this is the mood that he's trying to encourage. It's just complete faith in Krishna, complete dependence upon Krishna. Whatever happens, we may make the demigods angry, we may make the residents angry, we may make the local police angry or the local government angry, but still we kind of spread this Sankirtan movement. Somehow or other, we find ways to spread the chanting of the holy name, to distribute the Srimad Bhagavatam, to share knowledge of Krishna with others. And in doing so, but Lord Chaitanya kind of blesses us that more and more and more our mood becomes elevated and more elevated, until eventually we can actually enter into the mood and faith and surrender of these residents of Vrindavan. So this pastime is really a glorification of that surrender. And it's also very, very unique in the sense that, in Krishna's pastimes, the Astakaliya Lila, the Eightfold daily pastimes of Krishna, we see that certain devotees have an allotted time each day to be with Krishna. So Mother Yashoda is with Krishna first thing in the morning. She's dressing Krishna and bathing Krishna and getting him ready for the day. And then the cowherd boy is there with Krishna. They go out into the fields and they play with Krishna and they tend the cows with Krishna. And then at a certain time, Krishna sneaks away and he spends time with the gopis. And then he goes back to the cowherd boys. And then in the evening, he's with, he leaves the cowherd boys, he leaves the cows, and he goes to be with Mother Yashoda again and with Nanda Maharaj. And then at night time, he meets with the gopis again. So there are different times during the day which are allotted to different devotees who have different moods. Because generally speaking, Krishna, he limits his interactions with devotees of a particular mood, because when another rasa enters into those pastimes, then that can cause conflict. I mean, sometimes it enriches the pastimes. Like, for instance, when Radharani's mother-in-law and sister-in-law are trying to kind of disrupt her meeting with Krishna, that enriches the pastimes. But generally speaking, we'll see that each of Krishna's pastimes is particularly predominated by one particular rasa. This is a pastime in Madhurya Ras. This is a pastime in Sakya Ras. This is a pastime in Vatsalya Ras. So different pastimes are predominated by one particular mood, one particular rasa. And generally speaking, the two different or three different rasas don't overlap so much. They tend to be kept for separate pastimes. But Govardhan Puja is one of these very, very unique pastimes when all of the residents of Vrindavan, every single one of them, they all came together at one time under Govardhan Hill. And each and every one of them was able to spend all day and all night enjoying their particular relationship with Krishna. And because everyone was looking at Krishna, no one was aware of everything else that was going on. So the gopis could just look at Krishna uninterruptedly because no one was watching them. No one was looking to see, why is Krishna and these girls kind of looking at each other? The cowherd boys could just, enjoy pastimes with Krishna unlimitedly. The Mother Yashoda was right there constantly feeding him 24 hours. And Nanda Maharaj the cowherd men, they were holding Govardhan Hill up with their sticks because there were different theories amongst them as to how it was that Govardhan Hill was able to stay up. Madhu Mangal, he thought, well, it's by the power of my Brahma Tejas, by my Brahminical strength, then I am able to hold up. Krishna's just pretending to hold it up, but it's actually my Brahminical powers that's allowing Govardhan Hill. And then some of the residents thought that because Krishna is because the residents of Vrindavan is so pious, then Giriraj is able to float on the strength of our piety, and Krishna's just touching it with his finger, but actually Giriraj is holding it. And the cowherd men, they were holding it with their sticks. And Mother Yashoda was thinking, well, actually Krishna thinks he's holding it, but it's actually by the strength of King Nanda Maharaj and the cowherd men, and they're just doing it to humor Krishna. So they were kind of covered by Yoga Maya, that they weren't able to fully understand or comprehend exactly what was going on. And Krishna was holding it with the little finger of his left hand, because I'm left-handed, but generally most people are right-handed, and so the left hand is usually considered weakest, and then the little fingers, the considered the weakest of all the fingers. So it was Krishna's way actually of kind of doing this to Indra. I mean, it was kind of one finger to Indra, but it was a slightly more pious finger. But he was teasing Indra. Just see, left hand, little finger. Come on, bring it on. So Indra was just completely couldn't cope with it, and the residents of Vrindavan just couldn't quite comprehend what was actually happening. But it was this very, very rare opportunity where all of them were able to be together at exactly the same time for a week, all day and all night. And during that time, there was no hunger, there was no thirst, there was no tiredness. It was just 24 hours a day, 7-day week, being with Krishna and enjoying their relationship with Krishna. And all the different rasas were happening at the same time. It wasn't all neutral. It wasn't that because everyone was there, Krishna wasn't able to interact with the different devotees. It's like we see that, Krishna was kind of looking at the gopis and kind of, looking over their forms, and they would become shy. And then Balaram saw what was going on and he started laughing, and then Krishna became embarrassed and the hill started wobbling because it was shaking. And then there was all this rasa going on that the cowherd boys were teasing Krishna and joking with him, and Mother Yashoda was feeding him. So it was direct and active rasa that was going on 24 hours a day with every single one of the residents of Vrindavan. So it's a real glorification of the residents of Vrindavan, the mood of the residents of Vrindavan, the surrender of the residents of Vrindavan. And also in the matter of surrender, Giriraj himself, not only in this pastime, but in general, why do we celebrate Giriraj? Because he himself is an example of the highest surrender to Krishna. He's an example of Atmanivedanam, surrendering body, mind, and soul, everything to Krishna. His caves are meant for Krishna's pastimes, hiding with the gopis, playing with the cowherd boys, sheltering from the weather. His grasses are given to feed the cows. His flowers are given to decorate Krishna and the gopis. The oxides and the minerals that come from him, they decorate the bodies of Krishna and the cowherd boys. So, every single aspect of Giriraj's being is Atmanivedanam. It's complete body, mind, and soul, complete surrender to Krishna. And although Giriraj is, what was I going to say? I lost my train of thought. So Giriraj is generally considered a feature of Krishna, but he's like Balaram and like Lord Chaitanya. He's like this servitor feature of Godhead. And actually, interestingly, Raghunath Das Goswami, Raghunath Das had Govardhan Shila. Some of you may have seen Raghunath's Govardhan Shila in the Radha Gokulananda temple in Vrindavan, and it has what's unique and special about that Shila, Prabhupada? Yeah, it has the thumbprint of Lord Chaitanya. Lord Chaitanya would hold this Shila, and his thumbprint melted into the Shila. And then he gave this Shila to Raghunath Das Goswami. And it's explained that by Lord Chaitanya's giving the Shila to Raghunath Das, he was saying to Raghunath Das that I'm giving you a place of residence at Govardhan Hill. I'm giving you this place of residence. So Giriraj has also come here. If we take advantage of his presence and we worship him, we meditate upon him, we chant for him, then the same benediction can be ours as well. So, so Lord Chaitanya, he gave Giriraj to Raghunath Das Goswami. Now, Raghunath Das had a very interesting mood of worship of Giriraj. He worshipped him as Girirani, because his mood was so intimately connected with Krishna's Madhurya Ras. Raghunath Das is Rati Manjari in the spiritual world. He's an assistant of Vishaka, is it? Yeah, Rupa, but Rati Manjari. I think he's an assistant of, it's either Vishaka or Lalita. He's one of their assistants. And so he's very much absorbed in this mood of Madhurya Ras. So his mood is that no one can witness Krishna's most confidential pastimes with the gopis. No male can witness those pastimes. So because Giriraj is witnessing these pastimes, then Raghunath Das Goswami worshipped Giriraj in the mood of Girirani. It's not that we're going to adopt that, obviously, but it just goes to show that, different acharyas and different devotees, they can have these very kind of elevated visions and different moods of worship and approach to the Lord. So, so today, Govardhan Puja, we're celebrating the pastime of Krishna's lifting Govardhan Hill. We're celebrating Krishna's inaugurating the worship of Govardhan Hill. We're celebrating Krishna's revealing to us the method and mood of worship of Govardhan Hill. We're celebrating the residents of Vrindavan, the different rasas and the different moods of the residents of Vrindavan. We're celebrating their different ways in which they surrender to Krishna and the very high level of faith that they have in Krishna. And we're celebrating Giriraj himself, who's an example of the highest surrender to Krishna. Atmani Vedanam, surrendering body, mind, and soul for the pleasure of Krishna. So a very, very, very special day indeed, and taking place during the month of Kartik. So, and actually, later on today, we're going to circumambulate Giriraj. And if there are any doubts in anyone's mind that this is not quite the same as circumambulating the whole of Govardhan Hill, then we have the example of Srila Sanatana Goswami. Sanatana Goswami was circumambulating Govardhan Hill every single day, right into old age. And at a certain point, Krishna appeared and he gave him a beautiful big Govardhan Shila. Who knows where that Govardhan Shila is? Anyone seen him? No, not Tongue of Govardhan. Radha Damodar Temple. In the Radha Damodar Temple in Vrindavan, if you give them an extra donation, then they bring him out from under the altar, and he has Krishna's footprint is on him. And Krishna said, you circumambulate him 7 times, it's exactly the same as circumambulating Govardhan Hill. So when we circumambulate Giridhari Lal 7 times, then we can receive the blessings and benediction that this is the same as circumambulating Govardhan Hill. And in this way, we can be protected from being bitten by those snakes in whatever way they are, or hopefully not to appear in our lives, whether they appear in the form of lust or loss of enthusiasm or loss of taste, whatever Krishna means when he says we'll be bitten by these snakes. But if we take advantage of this special day, we circumambulate Govardhan Hill, or even we meditate on circumambulating Govardhan Hill, even we just meditate upon circumambulating Govardhan Hill, then this can also be the same. If we don't have that direct opportunity to come and circumambulate Govardhan himself, we can meditate on Giriraj, we can meditate on the different places around Govardhan Hill. We can, if we go on YouTube, we can see so many parikrams of Govardhan Hill. So the idea is to absorb our consciousness in thinking of Giriraj, meditating upon Giriraj, and also developing the desire, even the separation from Giriraj. Even we may be feeling, I want to be able to circumambulate Govardhan Hill, but for some reason I'm not able to. But we meditate and we cultivate that separation and that longing to want to be at Govardhan Hill. And then, that our desire will be fulfilled. Krishna says, whatever state of being one remembers at the time of leaving the body, that state he will attain without fail. So if we meditate on wanting to be there and wanting to develop this mood sometime, some point in the future, this life, next life, the next life, however many lives it takes, we shouldn't rush into it. We have to act according to our qualification. We can't enter into realms of devotion which are above our qualification. It's actually an offense to do so. But still, we at least know the goal. We know that this is the goal. This is what we're striving to attain to eventually. Just like, we may be going on a very, very long journey. And we know that at the end of the journey, we're going to get to whatever, London or Vrindavan or Hungary or wherever we're headed. And, in order to get there, we have to take all the necessary steps. We have to get into all the different types of transport, have to go all the right directions. It takes time. It can be quite long. It can be quite arduous. We can't just teleport there overnight. But if we take the right steps, eventually we'll get there. So Lord Caitanya, Srimad Bhagavatam, they've given the goal. The goal is Vrindavan. The goal is pure spontaneous love, bhakti, in the mood of the residents of Vrindavan. That's the goal. How are we going to get there? Then we have to find out. We have to follow the Srimad Bhagavatam. We have to follow our spiritual master. We have to follow Srila Prabhupada and then follow their directions, and gradually they'll take us there. And this is what's happening in the Srimad Bhagavatam. These different personalities, they're appearing. The different avatars, the different incarnations, the different devotees, the different personalities that appear through the pages of the Srimad Bhagavatam, they're taking us by the hand and they're leading us page by page, chapter by chapter through the Srimad Bhagavatam, and eventually they'll take us to the 10th canto, they'll take us to Vrindavan. So this is the goal. The goal is Vrindavan. So if we're going to go anywhere, we have to know the final destination, but then we have to know how we're going to get to that destination. But at least we need to know the goal. So the goal is Giriraj. The goal is Govardhan Hill. So we'll stop there if there's any questions, corrections, thoughts, reflections. Adoksaja Krishna Prabhu.
One question, one comment. One was I was just reflecting on how Krishna didn't get angry in Indra. Krishna didn't get angry. And we're told in Sri Ramanuja's book that even when Indra realized it was hopeless, he went to reach for a thunderbolt which was made from the bones of the Dachi Muni.
Say that again?
The Dachi Muni, his bones, he had a thunderbolt made from it, was the ultimate weapon. And then Krishna finally appeared in Indra's mind and paralyzed him, and paralyzed all the clouds. But still, he wasn't angry with Indra as much as he was with Ramananda. Ramananda was considered more grievous because he separated Krishna from his residence. So I thought that's an interesting. And the way Krishna looks at it, he didn't really take it as a big offense, even when he was trying to kill everybody and kill all the cows. And then the question was, is when we meditate on Leela, we're advised to meditate on occasional Leela and not eternal Leela. So is lifting Govardhan Hill eternal or occasional?
It is occasional. It is occasional. And a good point, but I wish I could remember what. It's to do with pride, because Indra's pride caused him to act in that way. And actually, who knows, where is it that we can bathe to become free from pride? What is the place? Anyone remember? Huh? Govinda Kund. Yeah, and that's where Giridhari Lau's from. Giridhari Lau's from Govinda Kund. So Govinda Kund is the place where Indra bathed Krishna at the end of the pastime. His elephant, Airavata, bathed Krishna, and that created Govinda Kund. And it's said that by bathing in Govinda Kund, because this was formed by Indra's humility and his pride had been smashed, then by bathing in Govinda Kund, we can become free from that pride. But also by meditating on the pastime, we become free from this pride. So it's an occasional pastime. Yeah, it's one of Krishna's Naimittika Leela. It's one of his occasional pastimes, and then it removes the Sanartha. It's connected with pride, but if I remember rightly, a few of the Naimittika Leelas have different aspects of pride, different kind of features or categories of pride connected to them. But this is definitely one of them. So by hearing the pastime, meditating on the pastime, reciting the pastime, then more and more we can kind of hopefully become free from pride and false prestige. Naimittika. So there's Nitya and Naimittika. Nitya is eternal Leela, and Naimittika is occasional. So we're supposed to read both, but according to our particular level of bhakti, then we're supposed to become more absorbed in one or the other. So if we're not yet freed from anarthas, if we're not yet freed from unwanted things in the heart, then our deep study and meditation should focus more on Naimittika, the occasional pastimes. Krishna's killing the demons, like you mentioned, Lord Brahma stealing the cowherd boys. This is one of the Naimittika pastimes. The liberation of Nalakuvara and Manigriva, pulling down the twin Arjuna trees, lifting Govardhan Hill. So all these are occasional pastimes. And by meditating on those and studying those deeply and remembering them, then this removes the anarthas, and that qualifies us to go into a deeper study of the Nitya Leela. So either Krishna's playing with the cowherd boys, or dancing with the gopis, or engaging in loving pastimes with his parents. But we have to become qualified. We're supposed to read all of them constantly, but the meditation and the kind of deep absorption should focus more on either Naimittika or Nitya, depending on our qualification. I'm still even waiting to get into meditating on the Naimittika, but anyway, that's the plan. Is that okay, Prabhu? Okay, is there anything else, Mother Vrinda?
I thought Prabhu said that Krishna wasn't so angry with Indra, but at the same time, I thought Indra wasn't maybe getting angry at because he's going to he's always envious of somebody taking all this position and all this kind of thing. So he wasn't worth maybe the anger, you know. So in verse with Lord Brahma, he was angry with him, you know. And he became, you know, Chari, pure devotee, you know, pure devotee of the Lord. So just kind of trying to get this.
I can't really say too much about it because I think it would be something that you would really have to study. But what does come to mind is, you know, Krishna has this opulence of renunciation. So I think this point that Adoksha made, that's really interesting. I must have read it before, but I'd forgotten this point that why was he so angry with Brahma? Because he separated him from the one thing that Krishna is deeply attached to, which is the Brajbasis. Whereas Indra actually brought them together. So in his own way, Krishna was probably quite happy. Yeah, keep it going. Let's stay together, you know. So he was quite happy with that. But as to, you know, how is it that Lord, I mean, Krishna forgave Lord Brahma, and even Indra, I mean, like Adoksha was saying, I mean, Indra's mood was, I'm now going to kill the cows. I'm going to murder the cows and the residents of Vrindavan. I mean, it doesn't get any heavier than that. But somehow Krishna was just not bothered because, okay, this is a nice opportunity to bring us all together. You know, so who can understand the mood of the Lord? But there may be more to it. There probably is more to it. If we, you know, there's so many things that we can discover about Krishna's pastimes where we can go deeper and find out all these. You know, one place that may be worth looking is a few years ago, there was this Krishna Katamrita magazine. You did some artwork for it, right? About Govardhan Hill. And there's a lot of esoteric and confidential and hidden information in there. So that some more may be revealed in there. It's probably worth kind of digging into it and finding out a bit more.
On an absolute level, because Krishna did, he was with his, after that, from Murali, they named him to be with all the residents of Govardhan, but they acknowledged as his son or the cars and so on. But I thought I read somewhere in the that Brahma, Indra went to Brahma for, did he go to Brahma for how to get his leave of that?
Yeah.
And he said, well, I didn't do what you did.
Yeah.
So on the absolute sense, it's
and also the only way that Indra was able to pacify Krishna was by Surabhi going with him. Surabhi Dev, the mother of all the cows, she went ahead. She went ahead of Indra, and she said to Krishna, look, you see this person over here? He's not worth getting angry with. Just forgive him, you know. And so because Surabhi petitioned Krishna, then Krishna is subservient to his devotees. So there's so many sweet details and wonderful details. And, you know, unfortunately, I'm sorry I'm not able to kind of say any more than that, but there's, you know, you could just spend a lifetime just on any one of these pastimes, just going deeper and deeper and deeper and just finding out more and more and more. And ultimately that is actually the goal, is that we're supposed to come to the point where one particular pastime or one particular rasa draws our attention more than anything else. And then the sort of final stage of bhakti, perfection of bhakti, is that we just become completely and utterly absorbed in that one particular aspect of Krishna's Leela. And then we enter into that. I mean, obviously that's way, way, way beyond, you know, where we probably are, definitely where I definitely am. I can't speak for anyone else, but that is the goal, is that eventually you know, Krishna reveals to us that this particular pastime, this particular rasa, that's where your attention should go. And then we become more and more and more absorbed in that. But one thing at a time, folks.
I was relishing Indra Maharaj's class called Govardhan, and it's all about the aftermath and Indra's rectification, etc. It's really elaborate. It's a beautiful class. Yeah. And Indra Maharaj was making the same point that Torture Krishna Prabhu was making, but also just wanted to say that Lord Brahma's mistake also served the purpose. As Indra Maharaj mentioned, that it increased the affection for the inhabitants of Vrindavan towards Krishna. So it also had a rectifying quality in itself.
Yeah, Krishna performs with any one pastime or any one activity, he achieves many different purposes. Another thing that, I mean, this is kind of going off topic a little bit, another thing that Krishna achieved with the Brahma Vimohan Leela was that at that particular time during that year, that's when the cowherd boys and the cowherd girls, that's when their marriages were arranged. They were married during that time. So the cowherd girls were actually marrying Krishna, and this was Krishna's way of maintaining the gopis' chastity, is that they were actually marrying Krishna, although the Yoga Maya covered. Anyway, that's another pastime for another day, and I'm sure there's a lot of worship of Giriraj to be done. So we'll stop there. I hope this was okay. Thank you so much. Shri Giriraj Maharaj ki jai, Govardhan Puja Maha Mahotsava ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Shri Giridhari Lal ki jai, Nitai Gaur Premanandi Hari Bol. Hare Krishna. Gaur Bhakti